Hey there, Dave Paulides, Canammissing Project, copyrighted edition for our video channel. Our website, canammissing.com, like Canadian American. And you can follow me on Twitter at David Paulides at canammissing. And the Twitter feed has daily updates to what we're doing, what we're interested in, what's happening at the news, etc. Some people have commented about why I am in the position I am behind or in front of the US and Montana flag. So this area of Montana that I live has a lot of special forces guys that live in the area. And I see them all the time in town, walking around. And the people up here are very pro-patriot, meaning they love the flag, they love our country. And I was this way before I got here. But since I've been here, it's been invigorating because of the way people are. They're not afraid to show their support. Recently in Kalispell, kind of in the downtown area on the northern end, there's a area that's a dedication to soldiers. And in Veterans Day, they had a soldier standing out there in full uniform saluting the monument all day. I've never seen that before. And there was an honor guard, gave you the chills. Walking by it, gave you the chills. And if some people have a hard time about that, and they've written to me and said so, I honestly don't care. And as far as I'm concerned, their opinions don't matter to me. We've had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people give their life for this flag. For me to not honor it and understand the meaning behind it would be not honoring those people that gave their ultimate life for this country. I'm not going to say anything about the dismantling of the country right now, but I can tell you, if you come to this area of Montana, good luck walking down the street yelling profanities and things about the flag. That dog don't hunt here. Quick story. By myself fishing the other day, and I was just kind of enjoying the scenery. And my phone went off. I looked at it. I was surprised I had cell reception. And it was from a buddy of mine in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. And he said, hey, give me a call. I gave him a call, and he was telling me, I think he wanted to vent about how bad things have gotten in San Jose. That's where I was a policeman. And he said that the administration wasn't supporting him. The community didn't feel supported him. And he was just disheartened about the way people look at law enforcement these days. I tried to tell him that it's the people that are being vocal right now are the ones that are getting the press. I truly believe it's a silent majority that sit back and are the ones that they don't want law enforcement to leave. The business owners, they don't want you to leave. But they're not the ones getting the press. And then I told him about the community up here, about how supportive we are of law enforcement, how supportive we are of Border Patrol. And again, I've said before, I live about 70 miles from the Canadian border. I see Border Patrol people all the time. Every time I see them, I let them know I support them. And if they're anywhere near me in line for food or coffee, I'm buying it for them. It's just the way it is. I don't care if I don't have lunch that day, I'm buying it for them. because that message needs to be sent. We have to have those people. And if they get disheartened and leave, and we lose the good people that are doing their jobs, society starts to crumble. And I don't want that to happen. So that's why I support the red, white, and blue. And that's one reason why I love the area I'm in. I love the state of Montana. So that's enough about that. The other day I talked to you about tools that I use when I'm in the wilderness and things I've used in the past. And in this episode I'm going to talk to you about FLIR, forward-looking infrared radar. So this is a FLIR handheld unit. Has a small screen. This is the lens. It can be adjusted. It can be changed, wide angle, etc. Battery compartment is right here in the handle. And this thing has pretty good focus and range. One of the tools for this in industry is using it around cracks in doors and windows to see where the cold air is coming in, because it'll show in colorization on the viewfinder. Now, what I like to use it for, and what Missing People Research uses it for, is they put this in a massive scale on a helicopter or in a plane, and they fly over areas and they look for colorization. If it's a cold night and there's a human laying on the ground, that body heat is going to resonate on this unit. Years ago, one time, I was asked to be a spotter on the police department helicopter. And I was flying with a pilot who'd been flying for 20 years. And he was a pretty good friend. And that night, I think it was a Friday or Saturday night, there was a big gang fight going on at a park over on the east side of San Jose. And we had probably 25 units responding. They said there was a couple hundred people there fighting, and there was gunshots. And so we put the helicopter pretty high up in the sky in case some shots were taken at us. And we turned the FLIR on. And so there was no spotlight that's hitting these people. They don't even know you're there because we were so high up. We turned the FLIR on and you could see all these people with knives and baseball bats, and you could see them swinging it. We turned the recorder on. It's amazing to watch when people don't know they're being seen. Then, as the police started showing up, we turned this, I think it was a 5 million watt spotlight on. And it makes everything on the ground look like daylight. And then all of a sudden, these people start scattering like little rats on the screen. And we kept on a couple of them that had guns, and we helped capture them. But it's amazing what that FLIR unit can show you without the animals or the people knowing that you're even watching them. And that's really the power of FLIR. Also, it differentiates by color and by heat. So the heat resonates the color that you're seeing on the screen. Now, if something's been deceased for a long period of time and they lose their body heat, FLIR doesn't help. But even as you're looking at something, say at 9 or 10 o'clock at night on a summer night, sometimes the rocks are still so hot that they'll resonate a hot color on FLIR. It's pretty weird to see the first time you see it, and then afterwards you kind of get it. Even the sides, the bark of some trees will hold that heat. Also can be used, and it was used successfully in Mexico. The Mexican National Air Force was flying a mission one day, and they were looking for air smugglers. And they knew that the smugglers would try to hide in clouds. So they kept their FLIR on, so they were looking for heat inside the clouds. And what they picked up was some of the best footage I've ever seen of UFOs. And there was a cluster of 3 of them, your classic UFO shape, close together, darting between clouds. And the naked eye wouldn't pick it up, but FLIR picked it up because it was a heat signature. And I still to this day remember that footage as some of the best I've ever seen of UFOs trying to hide in clouds from people, but being picked up by FLIR. These FLIR units have come down a lot in value in recent time. I would say you could get a used one for a reasonable price. These are a lot less expensive than the 4th generation night vision. So if you're interested, they're worth the fun you're going to have with it, trust me. So let's get into some stories. So, Dave, I'm living in the Sonoran Desert. I'm contacting you about possible information you might need to solve some of your mysteries. I like to explore the desert and have found many anomalies, from a light in the desert that looks like a mist, no water in the atmosphere, when I often observe the lights where there should be no lights. I've been to places that give me a very weird feeling, almost a scary feeling. Recently, exploring the desert now looks like a rainforest because of the amount of rain we have had. I have noticed what looks like a shimmer or something like that day and night. The shimmer I've seen multiple times in the day and night, although nighttime it's really hard. The reason I see these things is because I keep a very close lookout, more so at night because of rattlers, and do not want to be bitten again. I've also observed UFO, and I'm a licensed pilot, so I know what an airplane looks like with their lights at night. I also hold a CAA PF-CO for drones, so I know what a drone looks like and how they react. Just so you know, the FAA requires a special license to fly a drone. If you don't know, do know. And also, you cannot fly a drone in a U.S. national park or monument. And if they catch you, they will confiscate your drone and charge you $5,000. I'm not kidding. So don't be victimized by the National Park Service police. You've been warned. I believe these shimmers and lights in UFOs are connected somehow. I have also observed that local animal life acting weird, from no animal making a sound to animals and birds fleeing something that can't be seen. I've tried unsuccessfully to contact local groups that deal with paranormal about these things. To be honest, I really do not care anymore, but I feel that the information I could show could be of significance. Thanks again for the work you do. So, the group I would contact is Phoenix MUFON. And Phoenix MUFON is probably one of the largest groups that meet regularly and are organized. They have world-class speakers, and they have quite a diverse group of MUFON members that would be interested in all kinds of things that happen in the desert, go on in the desert, and go on in the sky. Phoenix MUFON. The two people that run it are the best of the best. I think I've spoke there 2 or 3 times, and just a great group. And if you live in or around Phoenix, the public is invited to these meetings. I encourage you to go. Tell Stacy or Jim, the 2 people that run it, that I sent you and that I recommended them because you'll enjoy it. You can find Phoenix MUFON online. Next letter. I do not know if this will help you, but I think you should tell your critics that your posts are not meant for their entertainment. This is not your purpose. Mental health is part of your venue. No one forces those critics to listen to your show. They can skip ahead if they don't like the letters, or they can go find a movie. I don't especially agree about your sports comment, but you don't need my agreement. Sports is entertainment, so you can see your view of this as a lens for understanding those who seek to make your posts into entertainment. It's no great loss if these viewers go elsewhere, but maybe they need to be called on their voyeurism. For me, civil rights is a moral issue, just as mental health is, and we should all kneel in repentance for a few minutes at the beginning of the football game for things that happen in our country's name and not our allowance. And I say that because I do love America. I am trusting you to not change your videos because of stupid complaints. In my mind, you don't even need to explain yourself to these critics. Still cheering and praying for you. I knew some students from LDS when I was in college. I got to know them specifically because they behaved as Christians. They earned my respect. God bless. As I've stated before, I lived around the LDS church for many years, and I don't have one bad thing to say about them, about the people I played basketball with in church, people I met at Sunday Sacrament, all great people. And yeah. So, one more letter. Dave, I saw your video on Ben's birthday, and while it's late and I should be wrapping up my day, I feel compelled to write because I believe this is right up my alley. I'm no expert in anything, but I've gone through much, and there's a very similar line there. I'm a recovered alcoholic for 32 years, but did a tremendous amount of hard drugs for 16 years, from the age of 13 to 29, and should have died many times from overdoses and accidents. In 1976, at the age of 17, I did LSD or mushrooms almost every weekend that summer, as well as pot, meth, speed, cocaine, a little PCP, and alcohol. Folks, I'm telling you, that is a wicked combination. I rarely did things in moderation, but wasn't trying to kill myself either. I was just having fun. I might have sacrificed a career in sports. Some say I did. It's just what happened. So I learned a lot about the impact of drugs can have on your way of being, belief system, mental health, etc., because I tended to push the envelope and survived it. But I had some good friends to do it with, and that helped too. If I didn't have that either, I would have gone mad or just done it. I had a friend that same year that didn't survive it mentally or spiritually. He was alive but never really came back and was taken under by it. He wasn't part of my group, but I went to school with him. His parents spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to help him, and I've come to believe that only God himself can do it. So in short, I believe it's a spiritual battle that affects us emotionally and mentally. I've also gone through some struggles of recovery and have battled depression off and on forever. Like you said, the highs are so high you forget, and the lows are so low you don't care for living. I know it's only by grace I'm still here, so that's why I'm taking this time to share with you, because that's how I stay sober. I give back what's been given to me. And you know what? Therein lies something that I think a lot of us forget. We're given a lot in life, and a lot of times we don't appreciate it. But giving back just a little for everything that we have been given, I think is important to the evolution of us as people and that circle of life. Life through grace, one day at a time, not by power, but by God's power. That's what grace is. I know it's a paradox, but that's what the spiritual life is. It doesn't seem to make sense, but somehow it works. The principles come from 12 steps and the steps from the Bible, and they model creation itself. Physics, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Karma, sowing and reaping. Humility versus pride. Selfishness versus service. Good versus evil. Love versus hate. Free will versus God's will. Those are really good comparisons. Over the years, I had a couple of friends that walked this path. Did a lot of drugs, did a lot of alcohol, and probably shouldn't even be around because they've done as much as this person has. And they recovered, and they made a successful life. And now what they're focused on is God. Now stop here for a second. A lot of people have said, oh, is this turned into the God channel? I don't preach to you the spiritual life. And I don't push this life on anybody. But I think in time, some of you will evolve to at least listen to understand. Now, this is what I'm going to tell you. These two people that I know were down and out, really down and out. And somehow or another, they salvaged their life to be very successful people. And they attribute, both of them, 100% to God. And their turnaround to being the success. And they don't mind telling people. And I think, just like this individual says, that's their way of expressing their appreciation. Now, I'm not saying that that is what happened to these people, but something really miraculous did. And once you understand the miraculous nature and you know somebody in this position, it's hard to comprehend how they were able to turn it around. Back to the note. We all have a ton of questions that can seemingly only come from within experience. We hope maybe a professional. There's much help, but I found it to be rooted in love from people that have already done that road, and then a willingness to accept what I cannot change. Rejecting fear, accusations, guilt, etc. Practicing principles and discipline to help make me free. Anyway, forgive my ramblings. This is just some of the things I've experienced. I'm excited to watch and see yours. I highly recommend you visit an AA meeting just to be around people that are recovering from a hopeless state of mind and body and listen to how they do it and see if there might be something you can use there. You'll find people from all walks of life and different ranges of recovery. I hope this helps. I can only give you what I have. God bless and thank you much. You are deeply appreciated. And if I can help you to say, Dave, you love Ben as much as any parent can. That wasn't the problem. It wasn't about you, obviously. How much worse would the guilt be if you weren't there for him? It would have been horrible. So don't let the dark side attack your thoughts. Offer it to God and see if that helps. Do it 1,000 times if you have to. But it just wasn't about you. My father never supported anything I did, but he's not responsible for who I am or what I did. You'll find this out as you continue. Blessings and peace. I've had a couple people write to me about how their dad didn't support them and how they aren't talking to him. I'm going to read that last part to you again. Offer it to God and see if that helps. Do it 1,000 times if you have to. But it just wasn't about you. My father never supported anything I did, but he's not responsible for who I am and what I did. You'll find this out as you continue. Blessings and peace. The people out there, and I've had dozens of letters from people saying, my dad didn't care about me. He didn't love me. I get that. I really do. And I have people in my family that think that way about me now. And they think I'm a kook. And they think that talking to the audience isn't right. And I don't care. I do care about their feelings about me, but it's not going to affect the way I live. But for the people out there that haven't been loved by their parents, and their parents are still around, I've taken the time to write a decent amount to these people because I think that needs empathy and compassion. Because being a parent, there's not a road identified that you follow. Sometimes that road is really confusing. And sometimes the path you're following doesn't make sense. Are you a friend? Are you a mentor? Are you a father? Are you a brother? Are you when mom's not around, are you a mother? It's all over the map. And I think that most people try the best they can at being a dad and a mom. Obviously, there's different levels of how hard you're trying, but I think most are. But as we grow older, and now you're the son or the daughter, and you're not talking to your parents, and that's your choice, I would ask you, look deep inside your soul. Is that really what we were placed here to be? Because you are part of your parents. Genetically. And a lot of your behaviors were learned over time by being around them. A lot of times I fight an inner feeling of doing one thing or another, and I think about it and I say, that's not what I want to be. You know, sometimes I imagine that somebody's looking over my shoulder and judging. And whatever your spiritual supreme being might be, imagine that at the end of our time here, you get down and you meet whoever that supreme being might be, and they play a recording for you of your life and all of those inappropriate moments where you acted badly, where you were a fool, where you didn't do the right thing. I think about that. And I think I want that film to be real short. But we've all done things in our lives that we weren't proud of. I think everybody has. You could have done more. You could have been more polite. You could have been more patient, shown more empathy. So if you are that son or daughter, take a deep breath and be the person that you wanted your mom or dad to be. Loving, accepting. And if you don't want that original contact on the phone or in text, put your pen to paper. But be polite. Say, hey, I miss our good times. I wish I could have been a better son or daughter for you. That might have made life easier for you. And I understand my role in this. I think those things are really important in life. I think about it all the time. So out of this section, I had one wish. Those people out there, you haven't talked to your mom or dad in a long time, or you haven't talked to them in a decade. Put down your guard. First couple conversations may be pretty awkward. But take away the defense mechanism. And maybe start the conversation with an apology. I'm sorry, I was acting off when I said so-and-so, or I didn't act appropriately when I was younger and I've matured. Take away that defense mechanism and the conversation may start a lot easier than you think. So, next letter. I want to share with you something that occurred just over 2 years ago. One night at about 3:30 a.m., I awoke with a feeling of sheer terror. It was a powerful feeling of being pushed to go and kill myself. In fact, it was a very powerful force that I could feel telling me to do this. It was so powerful, I held onto the side of my bed. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. It wasn't just a feeling. It was like an invisible pair of hands was pushing me to do this. It's exactly how it felt. I said to both myself and this feeling, quote, "No, I don't believe in taking my life," end of quotes. Thanks to my wife being there and the Bible, which I've always kept close by, I was able to get through this okay. But I spent the next while crying and trying to make sense of all this. Within a few weeks, I was able to recognize it for what it was and name it as such. It was a mental condition. Once it was done, and with a little research, I haven't looked back. I feel comfortable dealing with this now. Maybe I'm one of the lucky ones who can pull it together and get through it. It was an unnerving feeling. Hanging onto my first bed and then a dresser, just try to keep from being pushed out the door to meet my fate. I am so grateful that this is a subject you are dealing with. It gives comfort to those who are dealing with it now and in the past. Just goes to show, in some form or another, we are almost all dealing with it, especially with what is going on now in the COVID world. Please keep up the great work. Put the haters in your rearview mirror. You have the support of many of us out there. We're there for you, Dave. God bless. Yeah. And you know, I've heard the same thing from hundreds of people. And that must be damn scary. Thank goodness somebody was there with them. So, stories today. Two of them, I think, kind of parallel each other. One of them is quite different, but there's a lesson in all of them. First story is about a couple that were traveling from British Columbia to Las Vegas, Nevada. Albert and Rita Chretien. Albert was 59, Rita 56. They were from Penticton, BC. And they were going to a trade show in Las Vegas. And as they were traveling in that eastern Oregon, northern Nevada area, which is weird. I'm telling you, it is weird. I've done it. Because GPS will take you down some very narrow 2-lane farm roads. And you think, what in the heck am I doing here? And this is what happened to them. They were in a Chevy Astrovan, and they were watching their GPS, and they got onto a little dirt road in the middle of Nowheresville in northern Nevada. And the vehicle slid off the road, got stuck. Well, they figured that somebody would eventually come along. And they had some minor food supplies, and there was a creek nearby, and they decided to wait it out for 3 days. After 3 days, the weather started to turn. It started to snow. It was looking bad. So Albert put on a backpack. They had a bag full of sunflower seeds. And he said that he was going to take off and try to backtrack his way to the nearest town, which was Mountain Home, Nevada. And this is Albert and Rita. Good souls, good people. Well, Albert left, and he left on March 22nd. That was the last day Rita saw him. And Rita had some candy and some trail mix and a creek right near the van to get fresh water. Well, as would have it, Albert never came back. And that's part of the really, really hard story here. But Rita stayed with the van, and this is no doubt what saved her life. It's a picture of their van as it was stuck in the location in northern Nevada. Sparse area. Well, 49 days after Albert disappeared. Rita was still in the van, barely alive. And some antler hunters, there's people that collect antlers that are shed by animals. She heard the ATVs of these people, and she crawled out of her van. And a husband walks up and says, "Are you okay?" Probably the understatement of her life. And Rita said, "No, I need help." Well, what happened is that the elk hunters had to drive 9 miles, 9 miles from that site to get cell reception. This is how far in the middle of nowhere it was. Now, let me show you the map here. So this is where their van was located, near the Bruneau River. 18 months after Rita was found, they found Albert's body on Merritt Mountain. This is an interesting part of the story, because between this location and this location, it's about 7 miles. He was headed in the right direction because there was Mountain City. He had about another 3 miles to go and he would have gotten there. But what Albert did was phenomenal, because Rita and the van were at an elevation of about 5,700 feet. And he climbed to the top of Merritt Mountain looking for the city at 8,100 feet. And he was moving through 5-foot snowdrifts at times to get there. A phenomenal feat. And some elk hunters were traveling along 18 months after he disappeared. And they found a backpack. And they opened it up, and there were some sunflower seeds. There was a notepad and some pens. And they kept looking and looking and looking, and then they found Albert's remains, skeleton. And it was near what they believed to be a tree well, where he might have crawled into to get some protection from the snowstorm that came. Rita barely survived. She told searchers that the day that she heard the ATV, she was ready to pass on. That was it. She said she was running out of food. She was eating like a teaspoonful of trail mix and candy every day. That's it. Just to keep something in her system, and drinking water out of the creek. She was very lucky that creek was there. Really lucky. You can go without a lot of food for a long time, especially if you have a little excess fat on you. But you can't go without water for more than 3 days. That'll kill you. So she was lucky. A couple things about this story. I've been in the same position that Rita and Albert were in, where GPS was taking you to a place it shouldn't be taking you, to a shortcut that really didn't exist. And in each instance, I had a hard copy map with me. And I checked on the map where we were at, and I said, no, this isn't the way I'm going. Forget GPS, start following the hard copy map. So lesson number 1, you're traveling across country and you're thinking about taking a shortcut off a main highway, do not do it and trust GPS. Lesson number 1. Lesson number 2. This is not for the ladies in the audience. This is for the men. Put your testosterone away, and if you're lost, pull over and ask for directions. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you how many times I was traveling with my dad or my uncle and we were going fishing somewhere. They were just completely lost, and I knew it. I just sat there and was quiet, and we eventually figured it out. But if they just would have stopped and asked somebody for directions, it would have been over. Especially this area of southeast Oregon and northern Nevada. If you stopped and talked to a farmer, the rancher would be glad to help you. Now, back to this map real quick. The van and Mountain City are very close to the Idaho border. This is right here. So from this position right here, it's about 5 miles to the Idaho border. And this is some of the most desolate country you can imagine. And I'm being serious. And the searchers said that too. The antler hunters were stunned to see a van here and Rita in it. I can only imagine what was going through their mind when they walked up to her and said, "Are you okay?" Yeah. So, that's his Chretiens. Rita, still living, I believe, in Penticton. She's very lucky, but she should be very proud of her husband. He gave it a valiant effort trying to save her. Next story. The next 2 stories, they were hard for me to do. I felt very sad for both parents. So, the next story deals with a 25-year-old man named Khayman Welch. People called him Kai. He went missing August 12th of this year in the Tonto National Forest in a place called Weaver's Needle. And it's a viewpoint location where you can drive in and you can kind of do a loop around it. He was an experienced outdoorsman. He was raised in Casper, Wyoming, played in the band in school. He was known as a real easygoing, friendly, nice person. Kind of people you need in this world. And so many people made comments about the search and rescue photo that they put out on him. This was it. This is Kai. And his mom said, "Please, please, please understand, that's his driver's license photo." Because apparently some fools were saying, "Oh yeah, this is his booking photo." Funny thing was, it's not funny to the parents, Kai was never arrested. That just wasn't his persona. Nice guy. But he moved to Phoenix, and that's where his mom was located. Or correct, that's where his dad was located. And he learned to be a tattoo artist. He was real good. And then mental health issues started to catch up with him. And there were many people, including his mom, who said it was directly related to COVID. And the more the COVID went on, the harder it was for Kai to live in that environment. He got very depressed. And August 11th, he'd heard from his dad that his uncle needed some help in his air conditioning repair business one day, and if he'd go help him. And Kai said, "Yeah, I'll help." So on August 12th, his uncle took him and they did some work in an adjacent city. And that day it was about 115 degrees in that greater Phoenix area. And then near the end of the day, Kai said, "Hey, do you mind if we go take a drive over to Weaver's Needle Viewpoint just to look at the sunset?" His uncle said, "No, that's a good idea. Let's go over there." So they drove over to the kind of a roundabout thing. And as he's standing, or as the uncle and he are at the Weaver's Needle, and this is one of the rare times where I'm actually going to show you an overhead photo of the area. This is a road going in, it's a roundabout. This whole area doesn't have hardly any ground cover. Very hot desert. This is the Dutchman's Trailhead. Weaver's Needle is out in this area. So as the uncle and Kai were talking, Kai said, "Hey, I'm going to go take a closer look, a better view of the sunset." And his uncle said, "Okay." And he started to do some things in the truck for just a couple minutes. He said he turned back around and Kai was gone. And he said he last saw him walking in a southeast direction from the car, which would have been out in this area. Well, the uncle waited until it got dark. Kai didn't come back. Called for him, yelled for him, nothing. So he called the sheriff. And a giant search started. Now, one of the last texts his mom had, which was before this incident, before that day, is him saying he wasn't doing well. And his mom knew he wasn't doing well, and that she was worried about him taking his own life. But he told her that he was going to do some research. After Kai disappeared, there was a giant search and rescue. Canines brought in, couldn't pick up a scent. The whole area was searched multiple times. A body will decompose in this environment rapidly, and that scent could be picked up by canines for miles. Nothing was picked up. He hasn't been found. So his mom took his computer and started to go through it and found that Kai was researching ways not to take his life. He was researching ways to deal with suicidal thoughts. He wanted to live. And he had made a series of appointments to help in his recovery. And that's why this story is here. Yeah, many things about it match our profile points. Do I think that Kai walked out of that area with his uncle with the intention to kill himself? I don't think so. But again, I'm not sure. And nobody could really be sure. His mom had just gone through some recent surgery, and she said she didn't believe that Kai would walk away from her like that. They were really tight. And the facts surrounding this were strange. One of the stranger things is that Kai wasn't like most 25-year-olds. He didn't like phones. He didn't like cell phones. He had one. He didn't like carrying it, didn't like answering it, and he didn't like talking on the phone. And on that day, he didn't even have a cell phone with him, which his mom said wasn't that unusual. But when you look at all of the complexities of things that come together on this, very strange. But just because somebody is having a mental health episode doesn't mean that that meant that they were going to take their life. And the mere fact that he showed interest and was proactive to try to figure this out, it's a really positive thing. Khayman Welch, Kai Welch. And I know his mom's devastated. And when I heard this story, I just said to myself, you know what? I'm going to talk about it because there's a lot of other people out there in this world that need to know loved ones really, really care about you. So when you go out and you do things on the spur of the moment, or you do things thinking only about yourself, I want you to think about everyone else around you. Because we will carry that burden for a lifetime. Kai was known as a real outdoorsman. He camped in the desert before. He knew the dangers. He was smart. So, I hope this helps. The next case. Bryce Laspisa, Laspisa, 19 years old. Missing August 30th, 2013 from Castaic, California. There's a big lake there right along Interstate 5 on your way from Northern California to Southern California. Graduated from in 2012 from Naperville High School in Illinois. His parents lived there. After he graduated, they moved to Southern California. And Bryce enrolled in Sierra College in Rocklin, California. Rocklin is just east of Sacramento, right near Folsom Lake. It's a nice location. Well, Bryce also had a girlfriend, and she lived in Chico, which is probably an hour and a half, 2 hours north of Sacramento. Well, he enrolled in college, and he wanted to be a graphics designer. He had a roommate, And on August 26th, school started. He attended classes normal. And that day, he showed some unusual behavior. He started to give away some of his prized possessions. 2 of them being diamond earrings that his parents had given him. That's not normal behavior. On the 27th of August, his girlfriend said that he was acting oddly. He was drinking a lot of alcohol, played video games all night, never went to sleep. And then on the 28th, he told his girlfriend he wanted to break up with her. On August 29th, at 1 in the morning, a call came through from Bryce to his mom, but she was asleep and didn't pick up. On August 30th, he called his mom and said he hadn't slept in days, but that he wanted to come home, and he was going to drive that way. And there were a lot of things that happened in that midterm, but in general, he called her and he said, "I'm really tired now. I'm going to pull over and go to sleep." And she said, "Fine." He said that he was in Castaic. Now, let's go backwards a little bit. After being trained in mental health issues as a policeman and going to more advanced training when I went to NABS class, a manic episode by somebody is well identified in much of what Bryce was experiencing. I'm not a doctor and I'm not trying to impose my beliefs on what happened. I'm just going to lay out the facts. Many people in that manic stage give away things. Many people in that manic stage cannot sleep. And then it slowly starts to wear off after several days, maybe even a week and a half, 2 weeks. It can go on a long time. So I don't know. I'm just saying that those are the things I saw in this incident up to then. Well, this is Bryce. Good looking young guy, had some tattoos on his shoulder. Well, his vehicle was found wrecked off I-5 in Castaic. Sheriff found the car. It had looked like it rolled down an embankment. Search and rescue came in and they found a scent trail from the truck to from his vehicle to a truck stop. That's where they lost it. He was described as being very social. It's been 8 years. They haven't heard a word from Bryce. The cell phone wallet were in the vehicle. His girlfriend in Chico hasn't heard from him. So, this is Castaic Lake here. It's big. You can see it from the highway when you drive down to Los Angeles. Castaic is a pretty decent sized town, got a truck stop. This is the Lake Hughes Road. This is where his car was found off the side of the road, wrecked. They already searched the water of the lake with side scan radar. Didn't find anything. It's probably a decent chance that he did get a ride from a trucker. It's my guess. Where he went, who knows? He didn't have anything that would follow him, and he didn't. That all of the people in this area, they had posters put up for weeks. Nobody ever came out and said that they saw him or that they gave somebody else a ride. Right after he disappeared, part of that search, they came up with a body that was burned in this area. And at the beginning, it was thought, oh, maybe this is Bryce. In reality, it was somebody else altogether who was murdered. That's what happens in a lot of these searches. They find things very unexpected that you never thought you would find. Now, many people brought up the point with Bryce that they thought he was having some type of psychological issues. It had been said that he was drinking a lot of alcohol, and then there was some mention on one site that he was possibly taking some type of pharmaceutical that wasn't prescribed to him so that he could stay up even longer. Again, I'm not going to say he was or he wasn't because I can't confirm that, but it was in many of the sites that I read up on the story. But the giving away of possessions is not an indicator in many of these instances that he's given them away to go die. Nah. Again, like I said, that's very common in manic issues of people who are bipolar. Again, I have no knowledge of Bryce and his background, or even if he had a mental health issue, other than what was described in these stories. But remember a while back, I've told you that people give me a very difficult time about talking about mental health. Welch and Bryce, they're right in that heartbeat of mental health. They had moms, they had grandparents, they had people that loved them. And for somebody watching this to just cast aside a notion that these people aren't important to them or aren't interesting enough to them that we should be talking to them, you better look inside yourself. And to question the reason why I'm covering these cases. Remember I told you Kai? It was COVID related. Since COVID had happened, his issues had gotten more and more difficult. Friends, I've told you before, at the end of the day, part of the tragedy in all this is going to be the number of people taking their lives related to COVID. I don't care what the news may be putting in people's heads. The reality is, eventually, it's going to come out. And we, as a village, are going to be some of the few who acknowledged and recognized what was coming down the pike. Now, if you know somebody that's having a tough time, don't ignore it. Really. All of these people that I talked to you about, they never thought that anything was going to happen to their loved one. And part of that might be they don't want to acknowledge it, that maybe they could have done something more. But you never want to be in a position of walking away from someone in need. If you think somebody needs help, get them help. If they need somebody to sit down and talk to them. And don't be afraid to ask the question, are you thinking about taking your life? That's not a topic you go like this to. No, you ask the question. Don't be afraid about that. Confront it head on. And if they act offended, just say, I'm concerned about you. I'm here to help. You're more important to me than anything else right now. And right now, I want to make sure that you and I are friends forever. And if I can get you some help, I will. And I know in a lot of locations, finding a psychiatrist is nearly impossible. But I keep hammering this point, and I'm going to keep hammering this point. NAMI, N-A-M-I, on the web. They have online meetings, in-person meetings. They accept everybody. There's no fee. And I implore upon you that if you know somebody that is having a mental health issue, you get them to the meeting. Maybe you go with them, but you go. There's been several people that I made deals with that they're going to go to a meeting. So make that deal and make sure they go. All right. Well, those are the 3 cases today and the letters. If If you're interested in my books, don't buy them online. Please don't buy them online from eBay, Amazon, any of those. Those are resellers that are just going to rip you off. They're $24.99 on the site. If you look under the description of the video, or you look under the first comment, the pinned comment, I have a list of resources there for you. Please, please go to my site, purchase them there. They make great gifts. And a lot of people said, Dave, we want to donate to you. I've never taken a donation. I don't want to take any donations. What I want you to do, if you feel inclined to do that, order 3 or 4 books and let me send them to you and donate them to the local library. That way people who don't have the money to buy them can at least have the resource and read them. That would be a gift. Anyhow, I'm very grateful that the village is here and we're helping each other. The comments that all of you have posted, some of them have been great. Keep posting, keep writing. Lastly, if you're going to send me an email, don't expect a response anytime soon. Really, I'm overwhelmed. And just doing what I'm doing right now has taken so much time that I got to commit more time to doing other things. And I may never get around to answering, but I will read all the questions and responses that you guys do. But I appreciate it very, very much. And as you can tell by what I read here, I do read a lot. So they're powerful. The statements you've given are great. So thank you. Have a great week. And as long as YouTube doesn't throw me off, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.